Evening, Canby. Welcome to the Canby Urban Renewal Agency meeting for May 18th, 2022. Calling this meeting to order at 6:00 p.m. First on our agenda is citizen input and community announcements. So, Maya, do we have any?
We do. We do not.
Great, thank you. Moving right along. Item number 3, we have new business, and this has been amended from the consent agenda into new business for some appointments. So the first is appointment of Eric Arndt to the Urban Renewal Budget Committee with a term ending on June 30th, 2024. Do we have any staff reports or anything on those?
No, just what's in your packet. There were interviews were held with our finance director. I believe Mayor Hodson and Vice Chair of Urban Renewal Commission Hodson was involved with those. So if you've got any other comments, but yeah, just a typical process was followed with the recommendation as provided.
Yeah, so all 4 of these candidates that we have here this evening, so myself, our finance director, and then current budget chair person, Jason Patton, interviewed all 4 of these candidates. Eric Arndt was interviewed a while back. I think we just slipped on getting him on the agenda sooner for approval. And so, but yeah, we again interviewed these candidates here and recommend these 4 candidates for the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee.
Great. Well, I will take motions then.
Move to approve Eric Arndt to the Urban Renewal Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2024.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Next is for Elizabeth Chapin. I'll take a motion.
I guess I move to appoint Elizabeth Chapin as Urban Renewal Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimous. Item C.
Item C is the appointment, or I move to appoint Carol Hawkins to the Urban Renewal Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th of 2022.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimous. And then the last one.
So item D, I move to appoint the appointment of Herman Maldonado to the Urban Renewal Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th of 2022.
I'll second.
Perfect. Move seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is also unanimous. Congratulations to all. You are approved. Next.
Chair Bauer, just one further comment, if I may, just to note that there'll be some, not all of these appointments, but some of these will be corresponding to the city's budget committee, and you'll be receiving those recommendations in your city council agenda this evening.
Wonderful. The next item is item number 4, a resolution to considering resolution number 22-001, a resolution approving an engineering contract with Harper Huth Peterson Regelis Incorporated HHPR for the Gateway Project. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Barwig and Urban Renewal Commissioners. This is an action that is, it's an action item that's a follow-up to prior direction gave staff on proceeding on a couple of projects for the Urban Renewal Agency. One of those is we're referring to this as sort of our gateway project on the north end. It is also we're also calling it the Malala. The Malala Forest Road Bridge project. There are some various improvements related to that you discussed at at a session a few meetings back. Staff went forward with the process of doing an RFQ for engineering services for this project in particular. Jerry Nelzine, our Public Works Director, is here and can help answer any questions as well. But Jerry was involved. Actually, Joe Lindsay was quite helpful in doing we did a full I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the word I'm trying to say. We did a competitive selection process for the services, and the contract that's recommended to you, that firm came out on top of that. Procurement is what I was trying to think of earlier. We did a procurement process. And so just to kind of revisit what you discussed, and I want to just talk about this for just a moment here to make sure that you're clear on what you'd be approving. So again, this is for the engineering and design services for the full project of what was discussed. So that would include the painting of the bridge over 99. It would include some decorative fencing, lighting, perhaps some artwork, and we've talked about some decorative items. It would include the design of the connector pathway off of the bridge down to 99 that gives people better access from the pathway to, we've talked about the connection to Fred Meyer's essentially, but that's from there down to 99 and having a safer passageway. It will include some landscaping and some aesthetic work below the bridge as well, along that section there near the bridge, and that's kind of what we're talking about when we say that the Gateway project just sort of enhances our whole gateway. So this contract, if you were to approve it as is proposed, the full contract here with Harper Huff is for them to design, engineer, do all the preliminary work to prepare that for a bidding process if you wish to still proceed with the full project. If you had any thoughts of not wanting to do all of those components as had been discussed, you can, we could reduce this contract accordingly to have them only do portions of the engineering work. Or there is also the option of when we do bidding, we can do the bidding in such a way that you make components of the bidding. You can select which components you wish to proceed with. So typically we call those add alternates, and so they're set up in a way that you can say this came in higher than we thought. We want to remove this component or whatever. So you have a decision now, which is not the bidding of the work, just the engineering design work right now. But I guess what I'm proposing to you is just making sure that you're aware that this is the engineering for the full meal deal that you discussed. Staff believed that was the direction that you gave us, but if you had any other ideas about that, it would be good to discuss that before we approve the full contract. But staff is recommending approval of this, and then we would proceed on getting the design work done, and we'll move forward accordingly.
Great, thank you. And so in here, these estimates are just preliminary estimates. The price could be more, could be less, correct? Correct. Okay, wonderful. Commissioner Spoon.
Thank you. So when they were doing the engineering of the design work for the more ornamental portions of the bridge, is it going to be a situation like with the arch where they brought us back some options, or do we have design committee, or are we getting one option? Just kind of what does that process look like?
Well, we can, we have options of how we want to do that. I would envision something that we would bring that back to you before we proceeded with a final design. That might be something we want to have a further discussion on if there's a desire to have a committee to help with some of that, the ornamental or the artistic portions of this. I think the engineering components are going to be pretty straightforward, but I think the art and some of the aesthetic design pieces might be a little bit more subjective, and I've seen that done by committee. And so I guess that really would be something that if you as a commission wanted to give us any direction, we'd be happy to carry that out. We don't necessarily have to make that decision tonight with the award of the engineering contract. We can work that into the process going forward.
I guess my thought was if they're going to bring multiple designs for review, does that change cost? Is this cost estimate based on them having one design for review? That's where I thought maybe they would enter.
Give me insight into that. Do you want to come up, Jerry? I'm gonna.
And then while he's coming up, my thoughts for the board would be, this might be a good time to get the pedestrian committee involved or the park committee involved in some design review or some thoughts. And then maybe they could come to us with a couple of, like we did with the arch. Here's kind of the ones that rose to the top.
So Jerry Nelzine, Public Works Director. Jerry, is your sense that there's enough built into this contract that that the engineer could provide some different options before
We've planned on that.
Okay.
And we wanted to be able to have as much impact, and they gave us really safe engineering numbers, not to exceed numbers to get this done. And then the construction cost estimate was something extra they just did for us. They don't normally do, because I wanted you guys to see all the different stuff on that, on the costs, where the breakdowns are, and just to see that at
the end. But if they have different teams working on different projects and can give us one before the entire thing is done, I think that's easier to manage, both from a policy standpoint of what we want to do, as well as a project management. So if you can get that to work, that's great. A comment about the Hood River Bridge, of course. That was our very own Boyer Steel that did that project, the salmon migrating over the Hood River. And I talked to Tony Boyer about that recently, and he said, that was so long ago. He said, we can do things 100 times as precise. I said, can you do a multi-layer, three-dimensional dahlia? And he said, no problem. So right here in our own city, we have a vendor that could be producing that. And then finally, Scott, about the budgetary process. Will we have to hold subsequent interim budget committee meetings once this comes through in order to then allocate the funds, or did you allocate? I didn't bring my URA budget packet here. I'm just wondering how that's going to work procedurally.
Yeah, that's a great point. We, in our proposed budget for the next fiscal year, we have put forth an amount. What's that?
550.
Okay. Yeah, Joe's reminding me that I think we're putting in about $550,000 on this project for next budget year. So the idea is it's going to take a good bit of time just to get through this engineering design piece, and we've anticipated hopefully at least starting a portion of the project going forward. So I think we've budgeted hopefully what we need for the next year, but we can always revisit that if we needed to do supplemental budgets. And then the idea is, as this unfolds over the course of a couple of years or so, we'll then put the appropriate amount in to finish it. So yeah, we've got that anticipated. I did want to just go back to your first question as well, real quick, while I was kind of just revisiting the scope of work again here with the engineer's proposal, and there's some phasing of the engineering work that they'll be bringing it in kind of components, like here's a partial design where we're at, let's look at this, and then before we proceed to the next level. So I think that's kind of what you're talking about, not exactly, but there is a little piece to this as well that adds some complication that we'll have to work through. It's not a perfect scenario, but that is we've got ODOT with the highway, and we've got a railroad to deal with as far as how the project will be staged and built and all that. So it certainly will be, it may not look terribly complex, but it will be complex because we've got some different jurisdictions and agencies. So we'll do our best to try to hit some touch points along the way as we're doing the engineering.
Well, you've got a lot of experience dealing with ODOT and the railroad and done it successfully, so
we're going to work through it.
We expect nothing less.
Thank you.
And Vice Chair Hodson and anybody else?
Thank you, Trevor. I think I agree with everything that's been said here this evening on this project. It's something that has been, I think, 12 plus years in the making here. I agree with Councilor Spoon in that definitely some sort of a warranty work on the paint job, or at least something in that regards, so we don't end up with what we have currently. Now, we do have on the shelf, I think somewhere in City Hall or in our cloud, a previous bridge plan that we presumably can give to this company as a general starting ground to look at in terms of what has been envisioned in the past.
The Highway 99.
Yeah, the Highway 99 plan.
And we do plan to use that as the kind of, here's what's already been worked on, and that was what we envisioned with that, yes.
Chair Hodson?
Yes.
Not only have I shared it with HHPR, I've shared the past information, the history, the painting, everything. So they have all that so that we don't have this happen again. And talking to the company. So they have all that information already, so.
Great. And yeah, I will take this to the next park board meeting and let them know that we're working on this. So if there's input for them, that'd be great. And I'm sure Commissioner Parker will take that back to the bike and ped group. Because if I remember correctly, we did classify the trail as a park.
Yeah.
So it is classified in that capacity. So
Yep.
that might be able to open things up for other funding or grants or things I think that could be pursued as well down the road as this project unfolds, or other projects along the logging trail. So I think it's great. Thank you to you and staff for getting this work done and moving it forward. So some of that low hanging fruit, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
Great. Commissioner Hensley.
Thank you, Chair Varwig. Actually, I think Jamie could probably answer this question. I'm just wondering if this is one of those projects that maybe the design committee would look at as well?
I think that would be a nice thing to engage them on specifically, because right now we really only use them as part of facade work. And, you know, I think the original intention of the design committee was to engage on these bigger concepts, and we just haven't had those projects for quite some time.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, means that they are an advisory committee to the URA. And you're right, they've only been doing business facades and signage and stuff, so I think that they might want to have a voice on this one. Thank you.
Commissioner Marine, Commissioner Banks.
Thank you. I just had one question, and then I'd be prepared to make a motion. When it's painted, are we limited to green?
You're not.
Okay. I'm not going to weigh in on a color, but I'm just wondering if this, like, state highway has a specification on the color.
Yeah, just don't leave the color up to Public Works.
That,
Because I'm colorblind.
Yeah, it'll be.
I think Commissioner Bangs, that probably is exactly what we were just talking about, is gets into the, you know, how are we going to decide some of these subjective design components and colors and, you know, artistic pieces of this. And so we'll be working, this is the first step, is getting this contract in place, and then we'll be working forward with this firm and with staff. And I think with the design committee, that's a potentially a very good idea to engage them in some of these kinds of decisions. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well,
Then I would move to approve resolution number 22001, authorizing the Urban Renewal Director to execute a contract with Harper Huff Peterson Regalis Incorporated in the amount of $348,555 for design and construction phase engineering services for the Canby Gateway Project Highway 99E Logging Road Bridge improvements.
Second.
all right. I heard moved by Commissioner Banks, and I think I heard Commissioner Spoon first on the second, to approve resolution number 22-001, resolution authorizing the agency director to execute an engineering contract with Harper Hoof Peterson Regalis for engineering services for the Gateway project. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. The next is a follow-up discussion on the blade sign program, and it looks like we have Jamie Stipple.
Good evening. One moment, and I will pull up my presentation.
She was very musical
Got
tonight.
the best sounds.
We didn't hear the now recording set. She started it before.
I haven't been able to get into the Zoom. It says waiting for host, so I gave up. It says city council meeting though, even though I'm clicking the URA link. Oh. Whatever, I'm here. I just hope there's nobody in cyber world wanting to speak on this.
Okay.
Try again.
Good evening. I am Jamie Stickle. I am the Director of Economic Development and Communication Specialist for the City of Canby. Tonight we'll be discussing the Blade Sign Program, which we have had a previous discussion about. And so as some background, the Blade Sign Program was created in 2014. It's urban renewal funded. It's part of the facade improvement program. And the program as it stands today provides $200 for hardware, mounting material, and installation of blade signs. And so a blade sign is what you see in that picture. It can hang off the side of a building. It can hang from an awning or from even a steel awning or rooftop. And they are geared towards pedestrian traffic. So you would see them a lot in small downtowns. And at this time, also the applicant pays for the sign permit to the planning department. And I will go into further detail on that in just a minute. The process for the sign permit, I spoke with Don Hardy, who gave me kind of a brief overview, but someone would submit a sign permit to the City of Canby Planning Department. A number is assigned to them, it's reviewed, and then approved, provided that everything meets the code where the sign is to be located. So obviously different codes for different areas of town, but specifically for this downtown or our more walkable pedestrian traffic areas. The cost for the city sign permit is $100 plus $15 per additional sign. And the reason that there is an asterisk next to that is because there are some potential changes to fees coming before you in mid-June. And Don Hardy, the planning director, was able to pull that information. So it is, at this time, it is being suggested that it would move from $100 for the sign permit to $150. And then every additional sign would be $25 as opposed to $15. And so we just wanted to make sure to provide what is coming since we're so close to the end of the fiscal year. That all would take place July 1st, provided the changes are approved by the mayor and council. And then that permit is then sent to the county building department. And that is so that they can, if there are structural and or electrical, many signs are lit. And if they're going to be obviously attached to a building, there could be some structural implications for that as well. So the blade sign request that the city received was from the Dahlia building. They are requesting 7 blade signs for 6 businesses. So the reason for one additional sign is because of the Therapeutic Associates, which is on the corner of Ivy and Northwest 2nd Avenue. So they would have 2, but all of the rest of the businesses would have 1. That includes the Dahlia Apartments, Wayward Sandwiches, Dahlia Home and Garden, Bee's Bake Shop, Therapeutic Associates, and Little Love Resale. Economic development staff met with representatives from 2 of those businesses on April 21st. And at that time, they requested additional funds to be provided as part of the Blaze Sign program. And they also were asking if it would be possible for the city to either waive or, because it would be urban renewal versus city council, potentially pay the sign permit cost. And so I came before you at the May 4th Urban Renewal Agency meeting, and you had requested some additional information to further aid the conversation. So I wanted to give an idea of the estimate, and I know that also at the last meeting, we did discuss that the funding that was, or the sign permit request as far as having that waived, or that the Urban Renewal Agency would pay the city council back. It seemed at that time that the Urban Renewal Agency was not interested in proceeding, but I just wanted to provide that information. And then I wanted to provide the entire estimate that was provided. So that the estimate does, the estimate comes from the sign company. It included the signs. And so that was 2 1/8-inch brushed aluminum composite panels adhered together to create double-sided 40-inch by 16-inch with white aluminum composite panels on each side. Then welded mild steel building hanging hardware, which would be powder coated black, so that the sign would be essentially framed out like you see here. I originally took a picture from the scanned copy of the application, and I thought if we could just make it a little nicer so that you guys can have a good idea of what they're moving towards. And then the installation. And then we reached out to a couple different sign companies, and in order to make sure that we were giving them an idea of the actual cost that we were looking for, we gave them the information as far as it included the sign so that they knew what they were trying to attach with any of the hardware and mounting material. And so Rudnick Signs, they're local here in Canby. Their cost estimate came back between $600 and $700. Beaverton Signs at $1,977, and then Ramsey Signs, which is out of Portland, $6,226. And let's see. And I'm sorry? Oh, no. Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. And then I also, with the sign permit, what it currently is, for the Dahlia and these businesses to move forward, it would cost $190, provided it was just going through Canby Planning Department for a sign permit, which would be $100 for the sign plus the 15 equals 90. After July 1st, it would be an additional $300 for the businesses. At $190, it's approximately $27.14 per sign. At $300, it's approximately $42.85 per sign. And so I just wanted to make sure that you had all of that information. And then after some internal discussion, we thought we would bring back a recommendation. And the recommendation is from staff is that we would increase the funding available from $200 to $500. And that is so that we can make sure that based on our conversations and research, and then the increase of materials that we've seen, as well as inflation, that we thought that that would be good. It would still only be for hardware, mounting material, and installation. So it would not include the sign, and for an estimate like we received from the Dahlia Civic Block, the sign part would be removed, and then we would pay for the hardware, mounting material, and installation. So we're keeping with that. I also did some research just to see in the state of Oregon if there were any other communities that were doing or are doing blade sign programs. And I found only 2, Tillamook and Phoenix. Both of them were funded through their Urban Renewal program. Neither are still in existence. Tillamook they provided up to $200 for bracket and installation, plus up to $60 for design work, plus 50% of the cost of the sign. But the maximum contribution was $300. They stopped that program, I believe, in 2018. And Phoenix, again, they no longer have this program. It was funded through Urban Renewal, and theirs was up to $500, but it excluded the sign and building permits. So that concludes my presentation, and
Wonderful. So your research shows that we will be the only city in Oregon that has a blade sign program.
yes, that I was able
That
to
you were able
find,
to
yes.
Okay, great. Any questions? Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Sean. Jamie, I think I asked this last time, but if you could refresh my memory, how frequently could a storefront apply for this grant? Is it limited?
It's not limited so much in, so for the facade program, it is up to $25,000 for the address of the building per year. For this, the way that it's written is that it would be that a business can apply for one sign for their building. Because it's not for the sign and it's for the hardware, it would be, for the, I guess, stay with the property. But that allows them, it is, I think, more code-based. So it would allow like therapeutic associates to be able to have two, so that they can have it on the Ivy side and on the second side. But typically, I don't think we would see the need for them to come back again.
Could you go back to the slide that shows what the actual blade sign program covers? Right, so it doesn't include the actual sign portion?
Correct.
Correct, okay. And so then the mounting would theoretically stay with the building, and if a storefront left, a new place could just get the sign made and use that? Okay.
And with the facade improvement program, that targets buildings. And while this does also, it's probably more business led, but all of the items that the Urban Renewal Agency would be paying for would stay with the building theoretically. I have not seen so many that are, very intricate towards what the business, and especially with the one that is before us, the application that's before us, it's black.
Yeah. No, totally. But when we're changing the program, we have to think about all potential uses of it, not just the one that's in front of us. So I have a thought for the commission. I would be open to going up to $500, but I would be more interested in doing it as a matching, like our facade improvement program, so that the building owner has some skin in the game as well in terms of providing these. So I don't know if there's any interest in doing matching instead of just more than doubling our program. But I would be willing to go up to 500 or even the cost of the sign, but in a more matching capacity than in just the city paying for this for the building owners.
Would you want to put that as a match on either the business owner or the building owner? If the business owner, or if the building owner didn't have interest, I wouldn't want to limit what the.
Sure, I would, yeah, I want it to be flexible. I'm not, yeah. So if the building owner wanted no part of it and the business owner was willing to front their portion, but I like matching it to kind of the facade improvement program that we have now, which is that there's a matching component to it, so that we're not just paying to improve the building or make it more, it's definitely going to help them attract tenants. You know what I mean? There are advantages to the building owner to have this done. And that I've frequently objected to the city fronting the whole cost of something that benefits a business, unless there's some skin in the game on the business owner as well, so.
Commissioner Parker.
Sarah, can you help me do the math on that? If a sign cost $600, that means under your proposal, we'd only give them 3. Okay. I'd rather go for the 500.
Comment
Vice Chair
or
Hudson.
clarification. So the 500 that we're proposing, again, mounting hardware
Installation.
and installation. The $600 quote that we got from, or the 600 and then the 650,
That includes a sign.
that was for the sign?
It was for the whole kit and caboodle. So,
Sign, hardware, installation?
yes.
Okay.
And so, when we pay, we always do the reimbursement, and so we would have the paid invoice, and we would make sure that it said just for the hardware, the mounting material, and the installation.
So our piece would be the up to $500? Okay, thank you.
In the situation where some hardware was damaged or actually was removed from the building, if there's a limit, if they can only do it one time, are we going to have a limit, or would we have some caveats in there to let them come back if they needed to replace hardware?
I think that would be the will of the agency. So if that's something that we wanted to include, that, you know, it could be every business can apply for, you know, however it's written, but that it, you know, that's on a yearly basis, and that if something should be, or, I mean, if someone installed something and it looked, let's say this application moved forward and then we had another incident like the ice storm, you know, it's possible that the agency could say, we're motivated to see that it's, you know, that it's nice, it's not at any fault of the property owner or the business owner. So that I think I would look back to you and the agency's direction.
Commissioner Varwig, I might mention as well, though, you know, this program will only exist as long as the agency exists, so it might go away, you know, sooner than we'll have, you know, I guess, future, you know, flags coming down and other ones going up and whatnot.
Yeah, but if it's a good program, it could move over to the council, I believe. It'd be something. So my proposal would be to have the ability to not just do it one time. You know, I think if a business were to leave, and we all know that sometimes business turns over, and if they accidentally took the sign, I would hate to limit the next business that comes in to not be able to apply for it.
I can really, I mean, I can go either way on this. One of my thoughts on the matching component is that because there is no limit to how often they do it. Like, I don't want to be replacing signs every 1 or 2 years because you change your design concept or you want something new or fancy. If there was a limit to how often it could be used, I could very easily get to, let's just give them $500. But if there's no limit to how frequently it could be used, or no reason, like if it's simply like, this year I want a different looking post, now give me another, in this case, we're looking at, you know, $4,000 or whatever, almost, yeah, about $4,000, then I don't want to do that every year because they change their mind on design, right? So that's where the matching component is interesting to me, because then they actually have to be party to not just a whim of design change, but like, actually, is this something we really want to partake in?
Okay. Commissioner Hensley's had her hand up for a little bit, and then Commissioner Parker.
Thank you, Chair Barwick. I do like the idea of matching because signage is a cost of doing business, and they should have skin in the game. Now, we've been given a number of $650. We know it includes the sign, but we haven't seen it parceled out. Do we know how much of that $650 is actually the mounting and hardware and installation?
Yeah, I believe that it's $275. That's for the actual sign itself, and that the rest is for the hardware mounting and.
Okay, so if we were to increase it to 500 with the caveat that there's a match, then that means the business could get up to $1,000 in mounting materials, correct? We would pay 5, they would pay 5.
Yeah.
Was that how I'm hearing this go down? Because I don't like that. If we're going to increase it and have a matching component, I mean, we can increase it. If it's $275, then, and again, I hear what you're saying about inflation and cost, you know, the supply chain and whatnot. I don't think we need to go up to 500, but I think we do need to implement a matching component, because, and also because, to be fair to the rest of the businesses in town, this is only for businesses in the urban renewal district. So we're giving them kind of what other businesses view as a leg up. So to kind of be a little more even to our community and our business community, I don't think we should be giving that much money away without them having any skin in the game. So maybe a modest increase, not to 500, and definitely add a match.
Parker, then Hudson. Oh, all right. Vice Chair Hudson.
So, okay, I think maybe I'm confused here. So, Jamie, I'm going to explain my confusion and maybe you can break it down for me, okay?
I'll sure try.
You know, you're usually pretty good about helping me get unconfused. So what I understand that we're talking about is, if we're looking at the lovely pizza slice there sign, that we're looking to contribute money to the arm coming off the building and then the little hangy things that will hold the sign on there.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
And the labor day.
Right, and the labor to install and all that. Okay. So that's the $500 that we're talking about, contributing to. And so if Jamie's Pizza wanted to change her sign.
You picked up on it. I saw that and I thought, I wonder if anybody will remember that my example was Jamie's Pizza.
Jamie's Pizza. So if Jamie's Pizza wanted to change her sign every year, because that's just her choice as a business owner to do. We've already paid for the bracket. It stays with the business in the building. They're the ones paying for the change out of the sign.
Correct.
Am I so maybe I'm not confused. It just seemed like we were commingling language here so I just want to pay for hardware and installation. The business can change out whatever sign, how often they want to, but that's on their nickel, not on ours.
Correct. So
Okay.
I'll take back to the beginning, which is the Canby Urban Renewal Agency blade sign. And we would pay for, again, the bracket that's attached to the brick, what comes off, but the sign itself that says Canby Urban Renewal Agency and the dahlia, how darn cute, would be paid by, in this case, the agency. If you decided to put your other hat on and go as the city council and change out that sign, then it would be on the city council to pay for that sign. In this case, city council is a business, because the hardware, the mounting material, and installation would remain the same. And that is one of the things that, so we've only had one other application for the blade sign program, and that was with the Graham Building, which is across the street. It's 181 North Grant Street. And one of the things that Paul Graham did is he applied for the program, and he put in the legwork to get the hardware, the mounting material, installation, and then the businesses did the signs, and basically they all look exactly the same because he wanted to be able to just exchange it in and out. And I believe that that cost is carried by the businesses, even though he was technically the lead on that project and that application.
Great. Thank you. So I was grasping the situation. Thank you.
Commissioner Marine and then Commissioner Banks.
So, Jamie, can you clarify a little bit about the permitting process? Is the permit fee per building, or is it per business, or is it depend how it's applied for?
I think it depends on how it is applied. So I asked Dawn about this, and I said, if you had a building that had several businesses, if the application comes in together, which just like we received one application for 7 signs, 6 businesses, that's when it would be the $100 plus 15 per sign. So that I think there's a little bit of variance there. If there could be one business that wants to do a couple different signs on their building, provided it was within code, and so it's per sign. But it would be that fee plus the $15 as it is right now would be for. Could cover all of the businesses within that building.
Okay. So does that have to be, do you know if that has to be applied for by the building owner?
No, I believe that that the sign permit can be applied for by a business owner. It might be, which is very common even with the blade sign program or the facade improvement program, where a business owner can apply, but they need the property owner to sign off. So that's something that we see with the facade improvement program a lot, is that Jamie's Pizza, applies for a facade improvement program because they're going to put up the matching funds with the Urban Renewal Agency to update the facade of their building, but that the property owner has to actually sign off. Sometimes the property owner is the business owner, and sometimes the property owner leads the improvements themselves. It's a little in flux, but that gives it some room so that if it is all business led, it can be that way, provided that the property owner approves.
Commissioner Marine, usually there's if you have a tenant, right, there's a lease, and those leases, when they're commercial, almost always have provisions for signage and how they have to get permission, but that's between the owners and the businesses themselves.
Commissioner Banks.
Thank you. One observation is that installation could be necessary every time a business changes out and a new sign gets replaced. So I would want to not have to pay for that every time. Or like if you want to change your sign for your pizza place every 6 months, I don't think that we should cover the installation for that, even if the mounting bracket, et cetera, it remains in the building. I would like to stipulate that it does remain with the building. So like you can't decide to move into a bigger location and then take all of that stuff with you and then bolt it into your new building. So if the city pays for the mounting bracket, then it stays there on that building. And I would like to see it restricted to one per business. Like we don't do it a second time for Jamie's Pizza.
Sorry, Jamie.
Commissioner Spoon and Commissioner Hensley.
I can get behind that as supporting one per business. I understand that one of these businesses is on a corner and they would want to, but I don't think it's the city's responsibility to provide both. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Is that where you're at on that?
No, I was thinking that if the business wanted to redo it in 5 years.
Oh, you mean in
we
the
would not do
future?
it again, or if they want
Gotcha.
to change their design, they don't get to reapply.
Okay,
But
yeah.
if Jamie's Pizza sells out and moves across the street and the new, like the kite shop moves in, then,
The kite shop.
The kite shop can pay for their new sign to attach to the
to
the mounting
bracket
market
that
that we
we
put in.
have up there.
Okay, yeah, I could get behind that, and I can get to, here's my question. So if when we itemize that estimate for the sign, if only about 265 or 275 is the materials and mounting, I understand staff recommended $500. I could get away from a match if we maybe brought that. I don't see a reason for us to pay up to twice the amount of what we know the estimated cost is, right? And so that just encourages them to maybe go to a more expensive.
Get more
They
easy
can get
signs.
it. They can get it at Canby Signs and Graphics for $265. But if we're going to pay up to $500, why don't they go to wherever they want? And so from that perspective, I could get away from the match. I want to find a compromise where we're not putting out so much per private business, where I think signage is a cost of doing business and not the taxpayer's responsibility. So for me, like, I could maybe get away from the match, but could we bring the overall increase in amount we're offering down? Because I don't think double the amount of what we know the local estimate to be is necessary.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of there with that. I would still like to see a match, but I understand if there's, I'm not super committed to the match. I just guess I don't want us to give away $500. And when it comes to doing it over and over again, I would love to see them not do it over and over again. That would be my first choice, because my fear is that, let's say only one of these businesses was doing the blade sign program, then next year another one does, and then the first one comes back and says, well, now I want my mounting to match their mounting because we got different ones, and now again I want you to come back and give me $500 more, and they could theoretically do that multiple times if not every business is doing it simultaneously. I just don't see a reason to do it more than once, really, to be honest. So if there was damage to it from an ice storm or whatever, insurance would theoretically cover that. I mean, I could get to paying up to $300, maybe even $350 if it was a one-time thing and not having a match. Otherwise, I'd like to see a match.
Commissioner Hensley.
Thank you. I still would like to see a match, but I could pull away from there if we brought that number down from 500. But on the permit fee though, the example given, the Dahlia, with 6 businesses, they're sharing that permit fee, it sounds like. I'm not willing to waive the permit fee because we're not going to do that for other businesses in town, just the urban renewal district. I'm not okay with that, and I won't be.
All right, Vice Chair Hudson.
Jamie, so for the Dahlia building, we've got 6 mounting hardware brackets and signs that might go in, correct?
7.
7.
6 businesses.
Is each business picking their own mounting hardware, or is there going to be a uniform
No, I
design
believe that it's
standard?
proposed to be uniform.
Okay, so that if it's a uniform piece, then it's therefore if business changes out, goes from Jamie's Pizza to, Chris's Kite Shop, the bracket stays in place and the mounting hardware stays in place, and then it's just a matter of changing out the sign. So the hardware won't change. It's a one-time, in essence, unless there's a fee to it, right?
Right.
Which is what happened, right, when Book Nook was where now Artomatic is, right? So that all stayed and just a new sign.
Some of the, and I think that this is the exception, not the rule, but some of the hardware and the mounting can be prescriptive to a business. So it could be that, I think I gave this example last time, but for Jamie's Pizza, it could be a big pizza cutter and then from there, the sign. So there's some of that where maybe it wouldn't apply if then Chris' Kite Shop came in, that might be a little odd, but I think that that's very uncommon. I think most of the time, people want things that just look nice, uniform, especially for, only the second application we've ever received is, again, from a building that houses many businesses within it. I don't see a ton of issue with people being so artistic in nature, although there are some of those out there.
And yeah, I was gonna say with it being, only the second one in however long we've had this program, right? This is our second application, so we probably won't run into a whole lot of the issues. It's good to discuss them and get them in the program, but great. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Marine.
So is there anything that would stop us from using uniform brackets and say, if you want the grant, use the bracket that we've decided?
I don't think anything would stop that. We could have maybe 3 to choose from, Commissioner Banks.
I had that thought too, and I thought we could probably do it cheaper if we came up with our own design for it and mass produced them. But there was a variation in sign size that we saw the last time we brought this presentation up, which might be a factor.
Could be.
Yeah, that was the only thing I thought of, was that maybe you want a bigger sign or a smaller sign. But I'm not sure we really want a lot of variety in that area either.
Well, and I think some of the signs, or some of the thought behind the program was that you could do, your signage could look like your signage. So in this case, the Dahlia building, the apartment building, with all of those businesses, while the businesses' signage all looks different, the Dahlia is pretty uniform in how it all looks. And so, the hardware and mounting material proposed is uniform as to how it all looks. That might not necessarily be the case. It certainly could be part of this program. If someone, if that's the way the agency would like, we can do that.
Vice Chair Hudson.
Yeah, thank you for the work on this, and I know that we've just given a whole lot of stuff to you on this particular piece. I would be curious, and I know Planning Commissioner Chair Padden is here, if maybe we include this as part of our design standards with a new building, that when a new building like the Dahlia, I don't believe the Dahlia with a mixed use purpose will be the last building that goes up like this in downtown. And so I think maybe I would suggest it to kind of get around this, that maybe if there's going to be that retail space, that's something that's included in maybe design standards for the new building that's being built, or that there's already that kind of mechanism in place when that happens. Just a suggestion.
That's a good idea. Good idea. That's a good idea. Because this program won't be here forever.
Right, because it won't be here forever, as you said, but potentially. But what does that down the road look like in terms of the facade development and design of a new building?
And one thing also to note kind of on that front is that this program, and this is why we have the sign permit, is that it has to comply with the code and with the standards. If it's in the downtown, if there's an overlay district, if it was on Highway 99, so that it can make sure that it's, if they already have some sort of sign that, like the Oregon Lottery sign is technically a blade sign. So if they had something like that, they might not be able to then do another sign like this. So there are some caveats as well.
Chair Barwood?
Yes, sir.
Before I speak, I didn't want to make sure there weren't any other questions or comments from commissioners.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I was just going to try to see if I could do a little summary for you to put some frames around what we're talking about here, and
That'd be wonderful.
possibly get a motion from you or some direction. So I think based on the conversation, and this has been a very good conversation, the whole intent here was just to get, to take your temperature and get a sense of direction, and, perhaps that could lead us to a formal motion. Again, just to remind you, this program already does exist. The businesses can already apply for a $200 reimbursement right now. This conversation came forward because of a specific request from a specific building with multiple businesses. I don't think we receive these very much. Did you say we've only?
Our second.
Yeah, the second application. It's under the umbrella of the facade program, but it's an administratively approved program versus the facade. When you get a facade grant, that comes to you for approval specifically. And so I just wanted to make sure, staff wants to make sure we're getting clear parameters from you so we know what you're comfortable with. But I was going to make a kind of a revised recommendation to you based on the conversation, and that would be that we would increase the amount up to $350 from the $200 currently, and that's just to reflect the time that's passed since this was implemented. The costs have gone up, and there'll be some continued probably inflation at least through the end of when urban renewal exists. And as you said, Chair Varwig, this certainly could be something the City Council could fund in the future if you wanted to take this to the city budget. So I would recommend a $350 maximum, a one-time per business application or receipt of the program, that there would be no waiving of the permit fee by the Urban Renewal Agency or by the city, and that the city would reserve the right to retain the hardware that's mounted, or that's the city's buying the hardware, so we would reserve the right to maintain that. There could be a little bit of
Can I make
complication.
a suggestion on that?
Please do.
Okay, so if it's a fixture, the notion of urban renewal, right, is stamping out blight and becoming fixtures of buildings. So instead of the city owning it so that we don't have to repair it, just make it a fixture that cannot be removed from the building without, permission.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't want to own it.
Do we need a formal motion for that?
I think that would help.
What he said, does that work? Or do we need to repeat all that?
Yeah.
I would make a
Mr. Chair,
motion
okay, go ahead, I'll let him try
to
it.
increase the amount to $350, stipulate that it's one time only per business, and that the mounting bracket, hardware, et cetera, remain part of the building except as by permission.
And no waiver.
Right, we'd have to make a separate motion to waive that, so we don't need to include that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, perfect. It's been moved by Commissioner Banks, seconded by Commissioner Marine. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next thing on my agenda here is to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved by Commissioner Spoon, seconded by Commissioner Bangs. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just Jason.
Wonderful. It is adjourned. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.